So good evening, everyone. Today we are gonna start our session for Node.js. Completely continuing with our session, we just want everyone. I just want everyone to introduce some additional concepts that we can use in Node.js. The previous sessions we might have discussed about the creating of the servers and how the servers have been created, how the files have been moved and the files have been accessed over there. Also, the tracking of the IPs and additionally we are trying to syncing of the file syncing file not file async, blocking non-blocking concepts of files, even your client and user and client and server we are gonna how we're gonna interact with the client and the server and with the client server architecture continuing with async and sync. So that is what we all need. Okay, so by reading the file, writing the file, uh, and additional concepts like how to create the packages of JS1 packages and etc. So we are now we are so we now we I just want you to continue the part of this this are some additional concepts that we can link with JavaScripts that we can link with JavaScript. It's circular difference in JS. ठीक? Okay, so the circular difference JS is it means that see circular difference in JS. Okay, 1 minute. Uh, circular reference in JS. Circular reference in JS. So circular reference, it's a kind of a new concept. Uh, may you might have heard about or not heard about these concepts. This concept means that we are the server that we are gonna create. Actually, what happens when you have as we had created the server, where the request is where the request was not defined, where we could see that request is not defined, like something like that. As you can see one error over here, that is request is not defined. What happens, what happened over there, that the request was not defined. Since what we did, we just use console.log and request.headers. It means that we haven't used it properly. Because request.headers is not a part of this request.headers is not the part. This line number 11 is not, we cannot write it like that. We have to use response.headers, something like that. That is the reason it was showing us an error. Okay, as we can see, we use request in terms of response, so we got the real actual we got that we got an we got the actual okay, we use request dot headers. We just used simply request, so it's a response dot headers, so we actually got our result that what we wanted. Okay, so actually what happened that now we are going to understand the concept of circular reference in JavaScripts. Uh, all this is a very interesting. This is an interesting concept. This concept, it's very few people used to learn this concept, but actually, interview point of view, I think it's very important. See, what happens when you heard about something circular? Circular means that we are going to stuck with something. Okay, circular it just means that we are going to stuck with something. So how, if we are checking with something like for example, I use the loop from here, that I'm just using this loop, and again I got a stop point over here, but again when I'm continuing, but I'm going to my initial point. That is what a circular reference means. Okay, this is a very basic diagram that by which you people can understand about the circular reference in JS. Now, if you talk about circular reference, what when it happens? It happens when an object references itself directly or indirectly through one of its properties. Oh, okay. When it happens, when something, for example, in an interview, if it has been asked to you that when it happens, merely it happens when when merely sorry, see, so okay, merely it happens uh, when object indirectly for example, indirectly through one of its properties, through one of its properties. This means if you keep following the references, you eventually loop back to the original object. We loop back, and this is, for example, it's our original object. uh, we just looped back towards it. Okay, so this is what the circular reference means. So actually, uh, so this is the pure concept. Okay, so now how we people can understand it. See, there's one code that we people that we for which I can make you understand. Likewise, const object. For example, we had created one object, and by creating that object, it's an empty object. Okay, we created an empty object over here. Then object, and that object is reference to itself from, and then I use this obj dot itself. I use itself. So what does it means? It means this makes a circular reference. Okay, so const object is equals to curly braces. Then in the next line I wrote object dot itself. Object dot itself is equals to object. It's equals to object. Okay, so object dot itself is equals to object. Okay, this makes a circular reference. This makes a is pointed out a circular reference. Hence object is a property called itself, which points back to object itself. So object has a property of itself. Object has a property of itself. Object has a property of itself. Okay, so do you think that it's a problem? Yes, it's a problem. So it looks like a problem. Circular references can cause issues when trying to convert an object into a JSON string using JSON.stringify normally. Okay, for see when it happens, and why is this a problem? Now we have to understand that why is this a problem. Actually, it can causes when trying to convert an object into a JSON string. For example, this is an object and we're trying to convert this object into JSON string. So what we generally do, we just use one operation that if you've used, if you know this, JSON.stringify. In my code also, I've used many times JSON.stringify when I was creating an APIs. Not right now, but yes, in future when I will be showing those codes. That it's a kind of a functional object. It's a kind of a functional object. That means that it converts an object into a JSON format. Okay, so it's a good thing that it converts a simple object to a JSON format, and that is, see, that is not a problem. That's a good thing. That it's a kind of an ease to us that we are capturing an object in JSON formats. It helps the user to read. It helps to helps a code to understand the language and parse it correctly, to understand the language and parse it correctly. But if it encounters a circular reference, what happens, what now the thing is, what happens if it encounters a circular reference? Okay, if it encounters a circular reference, it gets stuck into an infinite loop. Okay, what does, as I use one diagram that for example, this is a starting point and this is a stop point, but again it is indicating to the starting point. So it means that we are just pointing back towards an original object. We are just pointing back towards an original object. Okay, so if we are pointing back to an original object, it means that we are stuck in an infinite loop. Likewise, we are stuck in an infinite loop. And for example, if you use for loop in C languages, you might have encountered with this problem. So So what would it do? It would be throwing an error over here. So obviously it's a kind of an error because we cannot move further. For example, if you're doing any work and again and again you are getting this same output, and you're not just infinitely, you cannot just move for the steps. Okay, so it's a kind of a loop. Okay, so it's a kind of a loop. So that's what I mean. So now, how do we represent it? How do we represent it? Although this is an error, but it's how do we represent this error? Like, well, we have first, as I told you earlier, that we use const object, that we that we create a simple object. We create a simple object over here, and that object is merely an empty object. Okay, then object dot itself, that means it references to itself. Itself is a keyword that it represents that it is referencing to itself only. Okay, it is referencing to itself only. Okay, okay, so then we use it, then it is equals to an object, normal object. It equals to a normal object. So what we do, we just print console.log. Okay, we just use console.log. We just use console.log json.stringify. json.stringify. Then, so what does it mean as json.stringify? Likewise, const of likewise we use just use const object, it's a null object. Then we use object dot itself keyword. Okay, the object dot itself keyword is equals to object. Then we use console.log. So json.stringify, we use json.stringify. So it's a function. See, it's a json.stringify itself a function, and in itself a function, we use that this object that we had just created. Okay, the object, for example, we just created this object const object, and then we just use this object only. Okay, then we use just this object only. So how so at when at stringify, we just use this object, so that we had created it earlier. Okay, so actually, let us see like that. Const or we just created const object is equals to its empty object over here. Then we use object dot itself. So it's an important concept, that is why I'm explaining it again. Then it's is equals to obj. Then after obj, then I use console.log. Then I use console.log for j. Then I use js1.stringify. Then this one, okay, then the okay, then see, then this object, okay, then this object is referring that it's stringify over here. It's referring to stringify over here. That means it is referencing to stringify over here. Okay, see, so what is this? This is basically, we can use, say that it's a type error. It's a type error over here. It has been called as a type error over here. Type error, that means it's converting structure to js1, converting circular structure to js1. See, this is a circular structure and we are converting to js1 only. Okay, okay, that means first we use, see what happened, we use a circular reference object, then we are creating it to a js1 format. Okay, so that is a this structural point of code is known as a type error only. Okay, okay. So now the question that people you for your people should ask about, that why is it an is it an error? Okay, the simple question is that That means what we want to say that what I want to say, why does JSON stringify fail? Why does JSON stringify fail? JSON stringify tries to process object, it follows its properties. Okay, when JSON dot stringify when JSON dot stringify, okay, tries to process obj. JS1 stringify tries to process obj, it follows its properties. Okay, what's 1 minute? Okay, since when JS1 dot stringify tries to process object, it follows its properties. Since itself refers back to object, keep going in circle indefinitely. To prevent an infinite loop, JavaScript stop execution and throws an error. Okay, uh, see, actually, what happened? It's a simple concept that is saying that JSON dot stringify. See, we just use we just itself refers back to object. Okay, itself refer back to object. That See, when itself refers back to object, uh, when itself refers back to object. Okay, it keeps going in circles indefinitely. It keeps going in circles indefinitely. Obviously, when it is going moving towards back to its object only, uh, back to its object only, that means it is following a circle. That means indefinitely it is following a kind of a loop. For example, we had started, this is a starting point, and we are yeah, and this is only our ending point. This means starting and ending points are like meeting. So okay, so it doesn't want any unnecessary loop, because it won't give a necessary output, but rather than giving it ends up giving an error. So to fix it, to stop this, first of all, what JavaScript does do, it just JavaScript, okay, it JavaScript, that is your JS, is stops the execution. It stops execution. It stops execution. Okay, JavaScript stops the execution. It doesn't want any kind of execution that should be uh, processed further. Okay, and rather than it, what does it do? It just throws an error. Okay, it throws an error. Okay, so how to, okay, now you people might understood about that, what kind of manner minor mistakes or variations that we can have at JS. The thing is how to fix circular reference issues. See, we have faced this circular references. Now, how to fix circular references issues? To circular see See, we had understood that first of all, we had understood that we had there's a problem, and we understood that why is actually why what is the problem. First we understood the problem statement, uh, then we understood the concept of that problem statement, what is that what it actually calls, what we actually call it. Then we use that, why, then why is this a problem only, and why, what kind of problem we use, we just actually rectify the problem. Now we are providing a solution to this problem. To see, as we understood that it is an error over here, as we understood that it is an error over here. So if we use that it is an error over here, we can remove the circle reference before calling js1.stringify. So just remove the circular reference before calling js1.stringify. js1.stringify. stringify. Okay, so how we can do this? uh, so to avoid this error, you can remove the circle reference before calling js1.stringify. So actually, the thing is that when we object it's referring to itself, the problem was, see, what was the actual problem? The actual problem was that when the object was referring to itself, that means when object was referring to itself, the okay, obviously there is no problem. Object, it's a part of a part of your, can say, the object that it should refer to itself. So when the object was referring to itself, but then there is a problem. But after that we are calling the s1 stringify. So before we are calling a stringify, we can remove this cr, this circular reference. Then after that, when we had removed, when we had removed this problem of uh, a circular reference, then we can call the s1 stringify. Then that will be the better option that calling it before. Okay, so now how to resolve this error and how to but how will we resolving? The very basic concept that we follow over here is, we can make a replacer function. You can JavaScript makes a replacer function over here. Okay, it's make a replacer function. Okay, see, basically it's not a part of, see, actually you people might be thinking that we are moving towards, we are understanding JavaScript actually, and rather than Node.js. Actually, this is Node.js is, it's a back runtime environment provided for the backend. Okay, but the thing is, as this is as this is a runtime environment, and that has been provided for your backend. Okay, so runtime for environment provided for your backend. Okay, so but actually it works on JavaScript only. Okay, so JavaScript is a basic part that we will have to understand, since it is following the concept of JSON, and JSON, we write the language of JSON in for Node.js using JavaScript. There's no, you can say, I will not no, I would not be denying this fact. But what we do actually, we just follow the concept of JSON. Okay, so we write the whole piece of code, we just make APIs in JS1 format. Okay, there's no problem. And so what, one way to do this is by using a replacer function. Okay, we had created a replacer function. Okay, we just moved, we have just created the replacer function. Okay, what is it, what now we should understand that what is this replacer function is. So what is this replacer function? It's a, okay, what is this replacer function? It just modifies or remove your properties. Okay, see, very simple to understand. If I talk it psychologically, if someone is making you trouble, so this something or some any person or some it can be. So so as I was saying, that we need a function replacer to fix this issue. So now, what is a function replacer? What actually it is? What actually function replacer is? Function replacer holds the logic of function replacer. 1 minute. It's okay. Function function replacer holds the logic of key and value. Now, what is key and what is value over here? First, what we do, first we design a, first we take a constant object. First we take an object. Actually we define an object, so it is better to say that we define an object over here. After defining that object, we call it object dot itself. As we using the circular reference concept, then is that is equals to object. That means the object is referencing to itself, and that we are using concept of object reference. Okay, then after doing it, now rather than doing console.log directly and printing with the help of JS1, printing the object with the help of JS1.stringify. We have to make one function, replacer function. How do we make a replacer function? First, we have to create the function replacer as like this by using the key value pairs. Okay, uh, by using the key value pairs, by using the key value pairs. Okay, like if like if key is equals to double equals to null, equals to null. See, we are comparing over here. Equals to, sorry, not null. I'm sorry. I'm just taking my words back. Uh, okay, but okay. So it is when k double equals to itself. It's itself. Since we're using object.itself at previously, so we use like that, object.itself. Then after using that object.itself, we are returning null. Okay, that means the code says, uh, see, so, 1 minute, it's like that. See, we are returning null. It means our code uses the logic that we are removing the circular reference. It means the here we I just want to remove the circular reference. Here I just want to remove circular function reference, and the logic is very crystal clear that, see, when you're using key and value in a function replacer, you're the key that is your main that holds your actual uh, authentication of your object. Okay, so we are just using, and we are just comparing it to itself, as we used itself in the first part when we were creating an object over there. Since it means that we are if it is referencing to itself, means that is the object is referencing to itself again, and we are stuck in an infinite loop. So if it is showing, so we use itself over here, and if itself, that means if itself, it is comparing it with to itself. And if it is like that, then please don't give that logic to me. It is written at null, that is, I do not want it, and it should be blank or it should be null. Okay, okay, that is what the concept is. And it is better to use triple is equals to rather than using double is equals to. Okay, rather than using double is equals to, we always use we always use triple is equals to. Okay, we always use triple is equals to because, uh, see, we are the JavaScript says that I'm very strict against it. That means it is pausing my work, so I'm using triple is equals to rather than using double is equals to. Okay, so if it have any problem? No, it doesn't have any problem. So that at that case we returned it as null. Else, minute, then else. Sorry. uh, See, else, it means if it is else, if it is if itself problem is not there, if it is not itself, then you can return the actual value. Then please return the actual value. So what is your actual value? Actual value, your maybe your uh, the the pure concept of JS, that your next further steps. Okay, then the thing is that after that we have to do one thing again, but one thing more, that JS1 string. I have to use, yes, I have to use JS1 string over here. And how do we use this JS1 string? First, just make that the first just make this object of just make the object of JS1 string. For this, make that object of JS1 string like this. Okay, make that object of JS1 string like that. Then use JS1.stringify. then use js1.stringify, then use then use js1.stringify. See, when we are creating this object js1 string, or you can say the as we are taking this variable of js1 string, it's a simple variable. Then here we are importing the value of js1 dot stringify, jso1. So then what we did, we simply just then we simply just use js1 dot stringify. js1 dot stringify, we use this kind of property, and after doing this js1 dot stringify, we just put over here object dot replacer. Actually, how we are doing this, we just use uh, actually we just use const js1. We just create that object that stores we had created object of js1 stringify, that just stores js1.stringify function, js1.stringify function, and as it stored js1.stringify, uh, so there we are, here we are passing up the parameters of object that we have initialized it before only, as we know, as you people know. And the replacer that is working as a acting as a function over here. Object is, as we have initialized above as well, the replacer is a kind of a function that we have created over here. So that's what we do. After what we did, we just printed up this js1 string, that js1 string object we just want to print over here. So I just use that the printing statement, and we are just printing over here, printing it. We have just used this actually we have just used json string. We have used the js1 string, and we have, after printing it, and we are just after printing it, we have just used the json string after printing it, and js1 string after printing it. And so hence we have completed the whole code snippet. After it, we there's an output that we got it over here, that it's null itself. It's itself belongs to null. That is, itself belongs to null. Okay, itself belongs to null. So okay, so itself, so what is the use case over here? What is the use case over here? Yeah. So what did we get? So we are getting that the output is itself is equals to null. That means itself is satisfying to null. We just got the output as output itself is null. Itself output is over here is null over here. Okay, so what kind of output we got? We got output is itself is null. It means it is referencing that itself is null, that we now itself is null, that it is not, it now, from now onwards, it won't be pointing to itself. For example, if we are starting from here, but it will the execution will not end to this point of view, and again, and this execution will not be there, and simply what will be the output? It will be moved in a step by step cases. That means that the problem has been resolved. Itself is null. Now we will not show here, that problem will not get we cannot show that problem. Replacement function checks if the key is itself and replaces it with null, avoiding the circular reference issue. So this, by the help of this replacer function that we had created a replacer function over here. With the help of this function, we have resolved a problem of the circular reference in JavaScript. So if you want to caught about the real world example of the whole this scenario, so circular references are common in large data structures, um, especially when working with DOM elements, databases, and if you know oops is also the use case of this. Okay, so what are the use cases? Let's revise it again. DS, that first, that is data structures, then databases, then object oriented programming. Okay, or in object oriented programming. Okay, so these are the use cases of your circular references of JS. And if you store references incorrectly, you might cause memory leaks. This is very important. What a memory leak? 1 minute. Okay. Okay, lab can okay, should use this one. Then we can use memory leaks. Okay, then you can face this problem of memory leaks over here. Okay, so that to avoid all those things, to that, see, memory leaks makes a program very slower. So okay, so I think to avoid this problem, we should know about this cause.